And there we go, everyone. We are back again for another fantastic conversation on Friday Night Counterattack. And this week, actually, just now after the beginning of our podcast, West Ham United are officially European champions in the UEFA Conference League after beating Fiorentina 2-1 in normal time, which is absolutely crazy. So it's crazy to think David Moyes, the former Manchester United manager who got sacked after finishing seventh, is now a European winner against Fiorentina, the grand old Fiorentina who used to be in the Champions League, in the Europa League, and who used to have Frank Ribery as of like last season as well. But it goes to show how football can change so well. But credits to West Ham United. Travis is joining us on this week's podcast. So Travis, obviously being a Spurs fan, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the best, how badly is this hurting you to start the podcast with a West Ham victory tonight?
About -5, if I'm honest with you.
Oh,
absolutely hate West Ham anyway. So, yeah, it's a difficult one.
The difficult one. Another season of Spurs not getting a trophy, but somehow West Ham got a trophy for the first time, I think, in like 40 years as well. So even they can run that on you next season as well. At least we've got a trophy in our cabinet. That's mad.
Yeah, we've got another 30 years until we won, but we win one. Bad looks fit. But you never know. Big Ange is in now, isn't he? So
yeah,
we'll see what the future holds. Who knows?
I'm looking forward to talking about that later this summer as well. It's going to be great. And obviously, we are going to be talking a lot about Serie A today, hence why you've clicked on this podcast. We've got two very special guests all the way from Canada talking to us about Calcio. We're going to be talking about the Serie A Team of the Season draft. It's going to be me and Travis. Our British knowledge is not going to be as great as our friends over from Canada. So just introducing them one by one. He is the owner, I'd say, one half of the Calcio Talk podcast as well. He's done amazing work on social media this year, and he had his opportunity to go out to Italy to see some amazing football this season as well, which we'll get onto later in the podcast. It is Lucas from Calcio Talk. So, Lucas, it's good to see you, my friend. How's everything going, and how has your football season been so far for your team, obviously AC Milan?
Everything's going good. Is it going good with you right now, Hamza?
Yeah, it's all going bad because I'm a Man United fan. That's why I had to go to all these random teams across Europe to watch good football, because it's not been great as a Man United fan this season.
I understand. Have you seen Milan? We barely made top four, and now we're in crisis with all this other shit happening. But the football season's been up and down for me in terms of being a Milan fan. Some moments have been good, some moments have been worrisome, with Pioli looking like he's stuck, he's stagnating, not introducing fresh blood, or maybe he is introducing fresh blood sometimes. Like, it's been a very confusing season for us Milan fans, and it's been like no clear direction of where the team looks to be going.
Because from the outside perspective, I can't see why you're getting rid of Paolo Maldini, because he brought in so many of these young, amazing players at cheaper prices than the rest of Europe. And they've become almost world beaters, obviously winning Serie A a season or two ago, if I remember correctly, and getting into the Champions League semi-finals for the first time since 2007. So it's been incredible to really see what AC Milan have done with Pioli and Maldini, but it looks like they're throwing that out the window. Would you say that's kind of correct, Lucas?
Yeah, it's weird because it seems like there's always a bit of a disconnect between Cardinale, the new owner of Milan, and Maldini. And it was evident last summer, I'd say, when it took until like July 1st or 2nd for Maldini to officially sign his contract and for him to finally start working on the summer market. And I think that could be due to him not really liking the proposals of Cardinale and what he was, the ideas of the future Milan was,
Yeah.
And I guess we saw it clear as day just on Monday. He called Maldini on his own to a meeting, and the meeting wasn't about the future of the market, the future of the team. It was to tell Maldini, I don't want you here anymore. You have to go. I'll keep Masada, but I don't want you. So it looked, from what reports are saying, it was a disagreement on how the future was for the team. Maldini wanted more ready-made players, and he wanted to show that the team can win now, while Cardinale didn't really want to spend as much on players, and he wanted to keep on going with this young project and gambling on certain players.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the first time since 1978 there hasn't been a Maldini at AC Milan, which is crazy. Maldini's son, Daniel, is on loan. His father obviously was there before him. And as we know, Paolo Maldini has been timeless at AC Milan ever since his debut when he was 17, 18 years old. So it's crazy to think of AC Milan without a Maldini at the San Siro for them as well. And it's going to be a very uncertain future for sure for AC Milan, especially with all of these players who are looking to be out of contract soon and their release clauses up and open, really, with some of them to be sold in the summer to look for these more established players. But I preferred Maldini's way of thinking. You need to kind of build on what you've already got with this young core, get some experience in there, get them over the line into the final of the Champions League as opposed to semi-final. And that's where we bring you in, Julian, as well, because obviously you've been an Inter Milan fan. It's been an up and down season for you as well. Domestically, not been so great. Had a few upset results in the league as well. But obviously Champions League final on Saturday. How are you feeling about that? Your first Champions League since 2010. I see that Zanetti shirt behind you as well there. So how are you feeling? What's your thoughts like so far?
Obviously, I'm excited. I'm nervous. A mix of emotions, but it's rather strange, to be honest, considering like the domestic season. I mean, already never would I have thought that Inter. I always doubted whether or not I'd be perhaps alive the next time Inter would make the Champions League final. And yet, out of all seasons, I would have never expected this one being the season where Inter made the finals of the Champions League. Seeing how inconsistent they were in the domestic league, having lost 12 games in all. But
losing their first Champions League game at home as well against Bayern Munich. I was there at that game, and I was thinking, I was thinking Nagelsmann's doing pretty good with this Bayern Munich side. Like they didn't have to leave like third gear against this Inter Milan team with Barella just on the bench the whole game. I think he was coming back from an injury, but I was thinking, Inter Milan, they're going to need something special to get out the group because he had Barcelona in the group as well as Bayern Munich, and they really did pull something out of the hat, which was amazing to see. And credit to Simeone in European content, but in terms of like domestic competition as well, you were going to kind of say, how has he kind of had his ups and his downs this season, Simeone Inzaghi?
Well, I think it was a mixture of like at the beginning of the season, the beginning of the Mercato, like we had Milan Skriniar possibly leaving and pretty much Inter putting him up for sale without him wanting to leave, him being loyal to the club. And I think that raised questions of the ownership and it raised concerns of the other players, because seeing how Milan Skriniar is so loyal to the club, it just made others feel worried about their future. And it just made them realize that they could also end up being put on the market. So the mistreatment of Skriniar and his uncertainty, I guess, kind of like fed off like towards the beginning of the season. And with that lack of mental strength, and they were just fragile at the beginning and dropped many points. And then it seemed like they kind of picked themselves up after like obtaining 4 points from Barcelona in the both fixtures of the Champions League. And then they went through a bit of a low after losing to Juventus and so forth. But then during the second half of the season, it was strange because they started off fantastically with a win against Napoli, which put them pretty much on track for the title race. But then just unfortunately, it wasn't even a lack of tactics, I find, like, because they were creating the opportunities, but against these inferior teams, they just were not able to finish. Like, they were absolute sitters, that Lukaku, Lautaro, even Dzeko were not able to get behind the net, which ultimately cost them towards the end of the season, losing to the likes of Spezia, drawing to Salernitana, losing to Empoli, drawing to Monza in the last minute. They were just conceding last minute goals in games where it should have been dusted off like earlier on in the game. And I think had Inter won those games, perhaps I don't think they would have maybe they wouldn't have won the Scudetto, but I think they would have put made Napoli a run for their money and maybe have made this title race stretch a little longer, perhaps towards the end of the season. But then I think Inzaghi did a fantastic job at regrouping the players and managed to get the best out of them. And we saw that especially after the Benfica game, after moving past Benfica and overcoming Lazio on a 3-1 victory where they were down 1-0 at the end of the first half. They went on a spectacular run, playing with such great harmony, ruthless in the final third, and they went on an incredible run. Only lost 1 game out of the last 12 in all competitions, and of course, I mean, won the Euro Derby against Milan to go to the finals, and just that itself, I think, gives them so much confidence moving forward, heading into this Champions League final for the first time in 13 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And with this Champions League final, Travis, it is against Manchester City, who we have seen dominate in England this season against most teams. Surprisingly, or not so surprisingly, your team and my team have been one of the few teams actually beaten win against Manchester City this season. Unfortunately for me, it wasn't in the FA Cup final. It was in a league game in January, I think, and for you, probably around the same, January, February. Is there a way you think Manchester City will kind of let up against the Inter Milan side, or from your perspective, is it going to be a treble winning season for Manchester City, Travis?
I don't think there's any way that Inter win that game. I know that Julian's obviously going to want to be optimistic, of course, and if I was an Inter fan, I'd be going into it obviously with hope. But no, I think the way that City have been playing in this Champions League run this season, they just look so unbelievably determined and disciplined, and I think that it's theirs for the taking this season. I think we saw a huge difference in the way that they played against Real Madrid this time around this season compared to when, because they had them obviously in the Champions League knockouts last season as well.
Semi-finals as well.
Yeah, exactly. So same position in the tournament. I think it is a really, really good sort of measuring point for Man City and how far they've come in 12 months, because when they played that game against Madrid last season, I think they looked really sort of frail towards the end and
a bit naive in possession as well.
Naive is really, the word. I hesitate to use the phrase, but they sort of bottled it a little bit. Whereas they played them this season and it was just from minute one, you could tell every single player in that team was of the attitude of this isn't going to happen again. We're not going to be in the same position again. Because last season they had Real Madrid beat. They had them put to the sword, but they just capitulated. And you could just see in the way that they controlled that match, there was never in a million years it was going to happen again. And obviously they've also been in a Champions League final previously, again against a weaker side that they should have beat. Chelsea at the time obviously weren't as good as them. And I think, again, they'll come into this game looking at a team who, on paper, are weaker. And I think they'll look at it as Inter being there for the taking. I think they'll have the same mentality of we're not going to let it slip up again, and we're going to go and win this game. And I can't see any other result but Man City taking the trophy back to Manchester.
Lucas, how about you being an AC Milan fan? Are you going to be supporting Manchester City for the win, or are you going to go for your Milan derby teammates? Well, not teammates, your Milan derby neighbours, I would say. Are you going to go for AC Milan or Man City? What are you thinking, Lucas?
Sorry, Julian, but I just can't support Inter here. I'd be lying if I said, let's go Inter, I hope they win. It'd be a lie. So I'm cheering on City, but I'm not going to doubt Inter here because I've been watching Inter for most of the season. I've seen what they did in the Champions League, especially to Barca.
Both games as well, home and away.
They're a team that's set up good on the counter, and they know how to beat teams with the high line and with the high pressing. Even last year against Liverpool, they were pretty dominant. They only lost due to an unlucky red card, in my opinion, against Liverpool last year. And even this season, they kept on showing that with the wing backs, they're the real strength in this team that can make these attacks into a goal.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it as well because you've got someone who's been very underrated this season, in my opinion, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, obviously moving from AC Milan to Inter Milan, having a really good season in a more of a deep line position in this midfield three. You've had Mkhitaryan have a really good season, but obviously my favourite kind of player in this team, because Skriniar has been out for most of the season being unwanted, is I think Bastoni's had a really good season as well, coming into a kind of a leadership role, being such a young man at the back as well, and changing Handanovic to Onana at the beginning of the season was a big call for Inter Milan. So I'm looking forward to some of these players really giving it their all, because annoyingly from our side, Travis, I think you can agree, all the talks on Romelu Lukaku, but he doesn't really start for Inter Milan. He's normally on the bench, especially from the turn of the year as well. I think it's because he's got like a new girlfriend or something, so everyone's going on about Romelu Lukaku. But I couldn't care less because he's a former Man United player who I know will do really well, but from the bench. Dzeko, underrated striker, Lautaro Martinez, underrated leader. They will be the ones leading the line, from what I can see anyway. But I'm looking forward to Saturday. It's going to be a fantastic occasion, and hopefully Inter Milan stop the treble. But if not, it's just we're in the darkest timeline, as they say on Community. I don't know if you've ever seen that TV show.
Great show.
one of the darkest timeline of Manchester City are winning the treble here. It's going to be very, very bad for us as well. But yeah, moving on to the next part of the podcast, we are here to have a Serie A team of the season draft. So we are going to be talking as pairs, I would say. So Julian, you may have missed this earlier, but you and Lucas will be teaming up against Travis and myself, and we're going to see if we can make a better Serie A team of the season than you. Everyone at home, play along as you normally do. Send us your recommendations as you always do, which will be great. Your suggestions. How it works for anyone who hasn't listened before is we both get to pick a wild card. So our favorite player from any position. Then we start from goalkeeper. Then we start with our 4 defenders, our 3 midfielders, and our 3 attackers. So we're going to go in a 4-3-3 formation. And you can only pick 2 players from each club. So you can't be going all Inter Milan, all Juventus, AC Milan. No, you've got to show variety and show off a bit of your football knowledge as well. And obviously for Julian and for Lucas, this is home territory for them. Calcio football, Serie A football. Travis, we're kind of having to do a bit more research than normal. I know you for a fact, Travis, don't watch much Serie A football on your Sunday evenings, unlike me, who's always glued to the screen. So this is going to be one where we're going to have to kind of find a good team to kind of compete with Julian and with Lucas as well. So are you looking forward to it, Travis? Showing off your Serie A knowledge.
I've been doing a lot of research because, like you say, I'm not an avid watcher of Italian football. We were discussing, me and Lucas and yourself, obviously before the point of recording, that most of our exposure to it is the big clubs, mostly sort of in European competitions.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching the Italian teams when I do watch them because I think Italian football is so different from the Premier League in that the way that teams set up and defend, it is so much different. And there's this old adage of the sort of Italian style of defending and Italian style defenders. And we've got a player from that sort of makeup at Tottenham in Christian Romero. And I think it's interesting watching him defend because he does bring a bit of a different approach to the art that the rest of our defenders do. And the fact that he's actually good at it compared to like Eric Dyer, for example, who isn't. So
Davinson Sanchez, not a big fan of Sanchez
exactly.
either.
Exactly. So I've been doing a lot of research to compensate, and hopefully we'll be able to put a bit of a team together. I've tried to go a little bit off the beaten track. I've tried to go for a couple of names that aren't exactly household names in the European game, shall we say.
If you're saying Angel Di Maria, I'm banning you from the podcast. I'm not having him in my team at all. So
he's nowhere near mine. He's not even on the list. He's not in the. I've got about 10 wingers on here. He's not one of them.
That's good. I was gonna say Julian and Lucas. If you want Di Maria, he's already yours because we're not taking him at all. And for me, obviously, on my kind of rule to myself is players I want in my team, not who are the best players, but I don't like them. If I don't like them, they're not in my team. So I get lots of hate in the comments, but it is what it is because I like some of these players and I don't like some of these players. You know what? Because we're going to begin our Serie A team of the season 22-23 draft. We're going to have alternative picks. So Lucas, when you pick first, the second pick in the draft, Julian has to pick. When I pick first, Travis has to pick the next one.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was gonna ask. Yeah. Okay.
So as opposed to me dominating this draft and Travis sitting there quietly, it's not gonna happen at all. I'm not gonna allow that to happen. We have fair game here on Friday Night Counter Attack, as you all know from listening as well. But as you guys are my guests, Julian, take it away. Lucas, take away. Whoever's taking it first, pick your first choice wild card. But you can't confer with the other player, your other teammate. So you have to pick off the top of your head. So whoever's going first, you're starting straight away. Who are you going for?
Okay, Lucas, go first. Lucas, I trust you with this one.
He's been my favorite goalkeeper this season, so it has to be Providel.
Okay, all right, I agree. That's good.
So you're going for him as your first choice goalkeeper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And what team does he play for?
Lazio.
He plays for Lazio. Travis, I'm going to give you the goalkeeper pick. So we're starting from the back. Which goalkeeper are you picking? And for the love of God, make sure it's not from a big team. I'm trusting you with this one.
Are we not picking a wild card?
Nah, we'll move on from the wild card because
we're
going for alternative picks as the next kind of lock hands thingy-mabob. We've got too many restrictions on, basically.
I would have picked Providel. I read a lot about his sort of story of this season, and it's a little bit of a feel-good story. But my second choice was actually Onana, who we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Just because I think obviously he's been very good for Inter since he's signed, but I think when you look at the context of he was obviously missing for a period through injury, and
Got sent home from the World Cup early as well, which is crazy for Cameroon. So.
Exactly. And I think he's also come back from obviously this ban from his time at Ajax.
Yes.
And I think to have that period of time out of the professional game and come back and not really drop your standards, and actually, with all due respect to the Eredivisie, actually go up a level because it's obviously a more difficult league and a better established league. I think it's just very impressive.
Definitely. So Onana's our goalkeeper. Go for right back. Go right back, left back, and 2 centre backs. So, Julian, where are you going for your right back, my friend?
All right. Well, right back, I think it's an obvious one. By far the best right back, and then the Serie A, we're gonna go with Di Lorenzo on this one.
Using one of your Napoli choices early, then. Ooh, this is going to be fun for us. So remember, only two players per club, but Di Lorenzo as well. I've been a fantastic player to watch this season, and I'm definitely sure with a lot of these players that Napoli have potentially available for, they'll want to keep Di Lorenzo because he's been such a leader from the back as well. What's he been like for you watching Julian from the back for Napoli?
I don't know, but I think he's ultimately evolved. Like he's peaked like pretty late in his career. Like I think since the Euros, I almost want to say under Mancini, I think that's when we saw the best of him, and especially this season, given the captain banner after Lorenzo Insigne moved to TFC, he's really stepped up, involved in the attack, quite clinical in front of goal as well. He scored some nice ones, some nice bangers for Napoli, and just played an immense role in this title winning campaign for Napoli this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic leader and fantastic player. He's going to go down in history for Napoli for years to come as well. So great shout there for Di Lorenzo. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go for my right back. I'm going to go for the Roma's right back. I'm going for Zeki Çelik, Çelik, however you pronounce it, the Turkish international. I know it's one of my Roma players early, but I think he's been pretty decent so far and really helped them get towards that Europa League final as well as doing... He had a really good first half of the season before the World Cup, as did a lot of Roma did. As well. So here's my first choice for right back. So at the end of this podcast, obviously, we'll text over our team so we know exactly what we've done going forward. Lucas, left back for you. I think this is quite easy. If you want to play it easy, you can. If you want to kind of... Actually, I'm not going to say anything because I want this player so much at my left back. It's just if Travis picks him. Who have you got?
This is hard. I want to pick who I think you're thinking about. He's a temptation pick, but I'm gonna go with Dimarco.
Federico Dimarco.
Is that the one you wanted, Hamz?
No. It's not.
Good. I think we're on the same wavelength here. I hope we are.
Okay. I hope you are. But obviously, Dimarco has kind of been his best ever season in Italian football so far. Has he got it in him to become literally one of the best left backs Inter Milan I've ever seen? I know he's only in his mid-20s as well, so I think he's got a lot more to show Inter Milan. Obviously, being an AC Milan fan, Lucas, what do you think? Has he got more to his game coming forward under Inzaghi?
Yeah, I think he has. And this season, this is his first season at Inter where he's gotten to play his position.
Yeah.
Last season he was a backup to Perisic, but also he was a backup to Bastoni. Like he wasn't really utilized right that season, and this season he's finally gotten the keys to that left wing back role, and he hasn't looked back. I think Julian can agree with me that he's one of the best players in 2023 for Inter. Maybe third or second best there.
No, he's up there.
That first
is he the
leg
top
in the
assist provider for Inter?
Yeah, something like that. Him and I think Çalhanoğlu were up there as well, but that first leg against, I think, Junior Messias in the Champions League just had him on lock like that. It was crazy. Fantastic player Dimarco is as well. Sorry, Lucas, I didn't mean to remind you of that, but it was a fantastic performance by Dimarco. A great choice of Dimarco.
No, but in most of the games, Dimarco has really put his right winger to sleep, and he's also been great on the attacking end. I think the way that Inter sets up, he really offers himself as like a winger. He's more of a winger than anything else, and his crosses are always so accurate, and his shots are amazing. He's a very great player that I hope leaves Inter one day soon.
I don't mind it. As long as he stays in Italy, it'll be perfectly fine to see DeMarco flourish. Right, Travis, I hope you picked who I've got in mind for my left back. So, yeah, take it away, Travis. Who's your left back?
Yeah, hopefully we're on a wavelength here. My number one choice for left back, and my number two was DeMarco, and I would have been happy with either of the two. But my number one choice was Destiny Udogie from Udinese.
Oh my God.
Is that not who you were thinking?
No, honestly, it was.
I think
It was. Because I had Udogie, then I had Joachim Mailer, then I had Hernandez, then DeMarco. Those were my choices, but I didn't want to use my AC Milan choice. I was just relieved you didn't go, oh, Hamza's thinking of Theo Hernandez because he loves him. I'm glad you didn't go for him, but he uses one of our Udinese choices as well, which is really good. And how has he been for you watching Udogie, Julian, from your point of view? Young player coming into Serie A. Has he been worth the hype because he may come back to England soon as well and potentially be playing for Tottenham? Is that right, Travis?
Yes, he's a Tottenham player. He's on loan at Udinese. So yeah, I mean, we signed him the summer just gone. We paid for him the summer just gone, but he went straight back out on loan. I think the idea was that Perisic would have a year or two in that sort of left back / left wing back role, and from there, then Udogie, once he'd had a little bit more time of first team appearances at a smaller, less pressured club.
That's a lie. Udinese are bigger than Spurs.
There's less pressure on them, I'd say. Less pressure to
less media pressure, I'd say.
Yeah. But a team with a little bit less limelight, shall we say?
I would say so.
I think the idea is, he was going to come back after a couple of seasons or maybe even come back after one season and be understudy for Perisic. But I think the way that it's transpired with Perisic at Tottenham this season, I think that the idea now, especially with how well Udogie has played for Udinese this season, it's been a really good season for him. I think the idea is he'll come back to Tottenham next season and probably be our starting left back straight away. And I'm quite excited about that, actually. There's not been a great deal for us to cheer about this season, and there's not been many players for us to get excited about. And it's quite fitting of Tottenham Hotspur that one of the most exciting Tottenham Hotspur players of this season hasn't even been playing for Tottenham Hotspur. But,
is that true, Julian? Obviously, seen him at Udinese this season. Has it been an exciting fullback from what we've seen of clips and hints and tips from the outside perspective? Watching him every other week, has he been an exciting fullback to watch from your point of view?
Yeah, personally, I think last season was his better performance or overall performance compared to this year. But I think it's totally normal. Like once you hit set the bar, it's kind of hard to maintain it the second year. That's the most difficult part. But I think this year he had a quite a pleasing performance. Really strong technically, has some pace, can get involved in the attack, is quite strong defensively to recover. My only concern is that the Celtic, from what I noticed, the Celtic coach, the coach that's coming, the former Celtic coach who's now the Tottenham manager, usually plays a 4 in the back, which concerns me a bit because like I feel like Udogie is a pure wing back. I don't see him working in a 4 in the back formation. Had it been Conte, the coach, maybe it would have worked a little bit better. But my only concern is with the 4 in the back. I'm not entirely sure if he's gonna fulfill his full potential as a fullback.
No, that's fair enough. Great analysis there, Julian. Right, we're on to centre backs. Travis, obviously you picked last, so Julian, it's your first choice centre back. Who are you going for, my friend?
It's tough because there's like so many choices. I'm trying to think of how we could build this team, but I think I'm gonna go with a safe one. Somebody who's played really well this season, in my opinion. I think it's probably his best season in football, within his football career. I'm gonna go Chris Smalling on this one.
No, that was my choice. That was my choice. Here's on my list. I had Smalling and Mancini on my list because I wanted to complete that defensive back line. But me being a Manchester United fan, I wanted to throw someone who I've seen before and do pretty well at Manchester United. How has he been this season after winning the Europa Conference League last season? From your point of view, Julian, has it been worth the hype that Roma have been building on since last season, or has he been just pretty steady at the back, showing his experience? How's he been for you, Julian?
Nah, he's been the best center back for Roma this season. Just shown true leadership, a great quality defensively. Just unfortunately, he's next to Ibanez and Gianluca Mancini, who aren't as strong and as consistent as he is. At times, it's been them two making many of the mistakes in the back line, costing Roma some harsh defeats. So, but overall, I think he's a great defender. Just unfortunately, age is on his side right now when he reaching his peak. But I think he has another good 2 years left in him for sure.
Definitely. No, good shout there with Chris Smalling. It's my choice for my first choice centre back. No messing about. I'm gonna go for Bastoni from Inter Milan. I need my first Inter Milan pick early. Second already.
Onana.
We're done then. We're done from Inter Milan. We can't go for any more Inter Milan players. We're done. That's fine with me. I'm happy with Bastoni. So, yeah, Lucas, your second choice centre back. Where are you going for that one?
Oh man, I'm thinking here. This is a tough one because, there's a lot of players at center back that I can choose from. But you know what? I'm gonna go with, I don't want to use my second option of a team, so I'm gonna go with Bremer.
Oh, good shout. Good shout there. I was
He's
trying
been,
to...
in my opinion, like one of the main positives for Juve's defense and just in general this season.
Yeah, no, fantastic player and fantastic addition to this young and up and coming Brazilian side as well. Not including Richarlison there, Travis. We're not including Richarlison there at all. But no, Bremer's been a great shout. And obviously he was at Torino last season, right? So he's done pretty well to go for that step up as well. Travis, second choice centre back. I'm looking forward to this one.
Bremer was my safety option
Okay.
if we lost my number one choice. I think it's an obvious one. We're going to use a Napoli pick. We're going to go for Kim Min-jae, I think.
I think Lucas was going to pick Kim and Jay, but use Lorenzo already. I think he's going for that.
I was hoping when you said Di Lorenzo, I was hoping that meant you weren't going to pick Kim and Jay, so you could save a Napoli pick for one of the forwards. What can you actually say about this guy that hasn't been said? Something I did want to mention. We were on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Hamza, and I was mentioning to you that Tottenham had the chance to sign Kvararskhelia for a very small fee when he was at Rubin Kazan. The same can be said about Kim Min-jae.
No way, man.
Yeah, no, genuinely.
Spurs are just fumbling deals left, right, and centre.
We were heavily linked with him when he was at Fenerbahce. It would have been something like a 10 million, 12 million pound fee, something along those lines. It was another one where we, perhaps didn't want to pay a couple of £1 million more to get the deal done. And now
what's his release clause now? Julian, what did you say? 50 million, 45 million? He's got a release clause for?
There's a release clause 42 million that's only eligible for July.
Oh, Man United need to get in there because we've been linked with him all summer so far. So if we do go for him, it'd be a really good signing for us as well. But great shout there, Travis, for your centre back. So got one centre back in Bremer. Julian, did you pick your first centre back?
Yep, it was Smalling. I think we move on to the midfielders now, I believe.
Yeah, that's fine. So Julian, you're on your defensive midfielder. So you're one defensive midfielder, then two other attack midfielders, whoever you want. So you always have to pick a number 6 being Italian football. You know how it is. But yeah, who's your defensive midfielder of choice for this season?
My defensive midfielder. This is tough. We already have an okay. So we already chose Di Lorenzo as a Napoli player. Oof, that's tough. I'm trying to think. I think it through. Lucas is looking at me.
Lucas has the answer, but he doesn't want to say it because it's not his choice this time. So it's going to be fun.
I feel like Lucas's might be a biased pick.
Lucas is going to try and text it to you over soon. It's going to be like, this is who you should be picked. But we can see your hands, Lucas. We know what's happening.
Okay, now as a holding midfielder, I had one player in mind. I have a couple players in mind, but I think I want to save them for later on. But I'm gonna go with Sandro Tonali. I think we haven't used the Milan ones. I'm gonna go with Tonali. I'm sorry, Luke.
I think say Benacer.
Yeah, literally. I was thinking Ismail Benacer. I was thinking Ismail Benacer as well.
Yeah, at least we thought about the same.
It's okay. They're two defensive midfielders anyway that play for Milan, so
yeah,
it's fine.
Both been fantastic this season. Travis, have you picked an AC Milan player
yet? We haven't. No, we've picked 2 from Inter, 1 from Roma, 1 from Udinese, and 1 from Napoli.
I'm going Fiorentina and I'm going Sofian Amrabat for my defensive midfielder.
Oh, nice.
I'm going especially because of his World Cup campaign that really brought him back onto the map of world football for what he's done fantastically well for Morocco. And obviously today had a really good game. Unfortunately on the losing side for Fiorentina, But I needed Fiorentina's choice because we need our Milan choices elsewhere, Travis. Yeah, Lucas, first choice centre midfielder. So it can be another defensive, it can be an attacking, wherever you want. You've got free reign for your next two centre mids, as do we as well. So you've definitely got your holding midfielder in Tonali. Who's partnering him in this midfield? I want to hear from you.
Who's partnering him? There's a
Or you could have
4-3-3,
one.
so.
You could have one in the hole and then two attacking. However you want to go for it. So your choice on how you want to set
Julian,
up.
what do you think with this? Are we gonna go for two DMs and an attacking midfielder, or are we going with 3 straight mids?
I don't care. Well, it doesn't really matter. You set the tone.
Lucas
I
is
have a
coach
player-
right now.
I have a couple players in mind.
You're putting me on the spot. Let me think.
There's
Okay,
one
we're gonna
guy.
we'll go with the two defensive midfielders, I think. We'll go with the two defensive midfielders. And oh man. Oh, this is hard.
I'm glad we didn't do one team each now because we'd have been struggling on left backs from now on as well compared to centre midfielders. So I'm glad we did a 2v2 now.
We've been here till next
You
Wednesday.
know what? Two defensive midfielders.
Ooh.
Brozovic.
Brozovic barely played this season. He was on the bench a lot, wasn't he? You had Çalhanoğlu,
But when he
Barella,
has played,
Mkhitaryan.
he's been class.
He has been class. You can't doubt Marcelo Brozovic as well. Amazing footballer. And I thought he'd be one of those players who wanted to leave Inter Milan in January because of the lack of game time that he had. But fantastic player, fantastic shout there. So you got a Milan midfield right there with Brozovic and Tonali. Travis, don't let me down. Don't let me down. Whatever you do, don't let me down. I have two players in mind for my second choice midfielders. Please don't let me down. Who have you got as your first choice for your midfield?
The first one I want to pick is Sergej Milinkovic-Savic.
Yes, that is my
That one of
choice.
them?
That was
Beautiful.
my choice. That was my choice. Him and Immobile. Zari's been pretty good. They've been fantastic this season for Lazio as well. The goalkeeper, I forgot his name earlier. As Lucas mentioned, fantastic. Providel, yeah. I'm so glad. He's been someone who I think should have, in a way, moved up in Italian football to maybe a Juventus or a Inter Milan, perhaps as well, because of his amazing box-to-box ability. His technical ability is great. Had a decent World Cup, although Serbia got knocked out of the World Cup. But any thoughts from you, Travis, on Serge Milinkovic-Savic?
Yeah, like you say, he's a player who perhaps should have maybe pushed for a move a little bit earlier, but I think a lot of clubs are obviously put off by that €100 million price tag that Lazio had slapped on him for quite a few seasons, really. I feel like every summer for the last sort of 5 summers or so, I've seen him linked with, say, Man United for a £100 million move, and it's just never happened. I think it probably will this summer. I do think it'll be probably the end of his time at Lazio now. He's got, I think, 1 year left on his contract. I could be wrong. And from what I've been seeing, he's appeared to sort of wave goodbye to the Lazio fans after being subbed off on the last day of the season. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him get a big move this summer. That he's been linked with for a long time.
Lucas, what do you think? Do you reckon he could stay in Italy to go to a larger club than Lazio, or do you reckon he could move abroad to somewhere like a Bayern Munich, who's looking to get rid of their squad players like Gravenberch and Sabitzer, almost Goretzka as well? What do you think, Lucas?
I'd like to see him stay in Italy,
but
I feel like Lotito will be
he'll not want to sell to his rivals, right?
Will kind of just mark him up to his rivals. He'll say, "Listen, you want Milinkovic-Savic? Fine, 50 million, 55 million. He'll ask for. I feel like, and I feel like if he's going to be selling abroad, he'll sell for 30, 35. But I think he should go. He should go elsewhere, outside of Italy. Maybe somewhere like Bayern Munich, or even like an interesting place would be. I feel like Tottenham would be interesting for him.
I was going to say, I think he'd be good at Tottenham. He's kind of midfielder that we need, I think.
Tottenham would ruin him.
It wouldn't be a step up in his career.
Yeah, he'd be the main man in a way.
Well, they finished second this season, and we finished 8th, so it's a step down, if anything.
Literally,
but no, it would just be interesting to see him in the Premier League. I feel it.
Yeah, we need a midfielder who can contribute goals. I mean, the players that we've got in that position, like Bentancur, Højbjerg, Skip, Basuma, Sarr, none of them can provide goals or even assists really in decent numbers, whereas Milinkovic-Savic can sort of pop up with goals and assists. So he's the kind of player that we'd need, but I don't see us being able to convince him to come to Tottenham. There's probably 15 teams that he'd want to join before us in the world at the moment.
No, that's fair enough. Julian, complete your midfield for us. You've got Tonali, you've got Brozovic in your midfield. Where are you going for this one? And remember the players that you picked already. Make sure you've got a spare club available for your attacking force as well, because you've got 3 attackers. You want to pick the best attackers, or do you want to go for your best attacking midfielder or second striker, by the way? So it could be your second striker, not just attacking midfielder. Where are you going for this one, Julian? Tough choice for you.
Second striker. I think it's gonna have to. It would have to be. It's gonna have to be Paulo Dybala. I think.
It's a good choice. Very good choice. I've enjoyed watching Dybala have a kind of second lease of life this season at Roma. I don't really like their formation, their 3-5-2 that they sometimes play, and who's always like kind of behind Tammy Abraham, but it's been very enjoyable to watch this season, especially in the Serie A games at home. He's really enjoyed that home atmosphere where being appreciated and loved again, and not just being another player like we've seen at the Allianz Stadium for Juventus in previous years as well. So I've really enjoyed watching Paulo Dybala come back under Jose Mourinho. And is it true that he's got a release clause as well for European clubs could pay for like 12 million euros for him, and Italian clubs could pay 20 million? Is that right, Julian?
Yeah, it's true. I can confirm it's true.
Oh no, so that's going to be difficult. He may end up at Spurs for all we know as well. Kane, Dybala, Son, Kulusevski, front four. That's actually not that's a pretty good front
nearly
four,
happened. We nearly got him a few years ago when he was on the verge of leaving Juve. We nearly had him wrapped up, and it fell through at the last minute, and we ended up with Giovanni Lo Celso instead, which is one of the biggest sort of falls from graces that I've ever seen, really, from one player to another.
He was like an entry level Dybala, basically. It's like if you got a Dybala on a cheap, it's like you got the pro version. Poundland Dybala. Bucket.
Yeah, I mean, when
bargain bucket Dybala, that's what he was.
When we were on the verge of signing him, I was so excited. I thought he was going to take us to the next level, and then it was right after the Champions League final as well. I think it was that summer. So when we signed him, I thought Champions League final's just been. We didn't win it, but we're buying a world-class player. I was really, really excited, but yeah, never mind. Such is the life of a Tottenham fan.
Classic Spurs. It is what it is. But yeah, that completes your midfield with Dybala, Tonali, and Brozovic. Solid midfield. We've got Milinkovic-Savic. We've got who have we got? Amrabat. For a second striker, I'm going a bit left field here. I'm going to Atalanta. I'm going for Ademola Lookman, who I think has had an amazing season so far for Atalanta, and he's been one of the reasons why I've been not just watching Italian teams in the Champions League, but also in the Serie A quite a lot as well. 13 goals in Serie A this season, 6 assists, moving from having not so great spell in England over the last few years as well. They had a really bad time at Fulham, always on loan at different teams. Leicester City didn't really do it for him. RB Leipzig in and out of the side, Everton previous years, but I feel like he's found his home in Serie A. And from what I've seen from him as well, he really enjoys playing with some of your attacking players that you see in Rasmus Højlund. We've seen them with, I think Zapata as well, has been really good for Atalanta. But Lucas, just from your point of view, I know you don't really see a lot of players coming from Nigeria and really having, well, he's kind of like brought up in England, but he's a Nigerian international. We've seen quite a few of them do really well over the last few years, but it's not been really the case, has it? When you've got a lot of African players going to Serie A, they use it normally for a stepping stone or for a payday. But now you've got quite a few of them who are turning up doing really, really well in Serie A. What's your thoughts on Ademola Lookman this season so far, Lucas?
He's been great, but he's also been inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
You know,
he has purple patches.
During the January, February part of the season is where he really popped off, and he was getting like a goal and assist every game, you know, like he did amazing. And even at the beginning of the season in September, he was great. But he goes on really, really long dry spells, you know. And I think he was injured for a part of one of his dry spells. But in general, he's a great player. Like, I think one of the only things that he can do is just work on his consistency and not have his goals and assists come in like a short burst of time and then go missing.
Do you think it's the future for him?
I see that with most players. So.
Mm. I was just going to say, do you think there's the future for him at Atalanta as well, staying there permanently as opposed to moving back on loan as well? Do you reckon he's going to stay there for a good couple of years now?
I can see him staying there for like 1 or 2 more years because he's like 24, 25.
Yeah.
He's still young. Maybe he stays for 1 or 2 more seasons, but he's probably soon gonna want to make the step up because I don't know if he wants to continue playing Europa League football or wherever. I think Atalanta or Europa League.
Yeah.
And I think if a big club comes calling like a Premier League team or a top four Serie A team, he's gonna want to leave because he's the focal point of that attack. Hoyland, he's been having a good season, but he's still only a kid. He's still only trying to find his feet in the team and find what kind of player he is. They can't rely on him yet.
Exactly. No, really good analysis there, Lucas, as well. Now we're on to right midfielders. So going right midfielders, left midfielders, and finishing off with our strikers as well. Lucas, it is your turn, isn't it? So it's Lucas's turn, isn't it? So right wingers, where are we going with this one?
Where are we going with this one?
You picked between Napoli. You picked one Napoli player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So there's a hint there that I laid down, and obviously we're not taking a certain Juventus player. So if you want to take him, it's a free reign from yours.
Now I have a question.
Mm.
Would I be able to interchange a player like from the opposite side, move him over a bit?
Nah,
No?
we don't do that. We consider that cheating. So if you were thinking of certain Rafael Leao or Kvararskhelia, I know they don't play on the right wing. But yeah, you can't be doing that. It's just fair game, I would say.
Trust me, I was never thinking that. I was just making sure.
we have to be on the same wavelength. I love it.
Oh man. For right wing, we'll go with the man that we were talking about, Lookman. He's been having a great season. He's really broken out on that right wing and he's made it his own. And I think he's one of the best right wingers in the league, even though there's not much competition for that spot in the league, not many teams play with right wingers. They play like the 3-back and they have wing backs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's not much to fight for, but an honorable mention would be for me someone like Nico Gonzalez, who even today in that Europa Conference League final, he was one of the bright spots for Fiorentina. He was electric. And that's what he's been this season when he's played, because unfortunately he's been struggling with injuries and
he kept
that
Ikone
has
out
kind
the
of
team as well,
derailed his
didn't
season.
he? Like Ikone moved to Fiorentina and he can't get a game there because of Gonzalez doing so well as a right winger. So it's done fantastic for Fiorentina this season, especially coming back from his injury. But yeah, who was your choice for right winger again, Lucas?
Lookman.
In fact, I picked Lookman. You can't pick someone else.
Same player. You can't pick the. You pick.
Oh, you pick Lookman.
I picked Lookman for my
sorry.
attack midfielder. Yeah.
I'll go with Nico Gonzalez then.
Nico Gonzalez.
Fair
Good
enough.
shout.
That's a really
Good shout. Travis, the pressure's on you. You have the hardest of the front three positions. You know for a fact if Angel Di Maria gets picked, you're getting kicked from the Zoom call. Where are we going with this right winger? And please, please, please make sure we've got space for a certain someone in this side. So let's see where we're going with this one.
Yeah, I'm protecting our picks for striker and left wing here with my choice of club. I'm going
Lozano.
for no
Politano, maybe.
I'm taking Domenico Berardi.
I
from
heard they're
Sassuolo.
really good.
Yeah, Berardi's good shout. Solid choice. I still don't know why he hasn't left. Yeah, he should really be at a bigger club than where
another one
now.
maybe a little bit too loyal, but there's something to be said for it, isn't there? Yeah,
I've really enjoyed the fact that he stayed loyal to a club, and we've seen that a lot over the years where someone retires, like a Francesco Totti or a Del Piero, and they'll get praised for their loyalty. We've seen that with Berardi. We've kind of seen that with Di Lorenzo as well, staying after a lot of the players have left. So really good shout there for Dominic Berardi. Julian, you have the choice now. Left wing, first choice. Where are we going with this one? Who have we picked and who have we
Let's
not picked?
avoid Leon Kavica. Come on, Julian. Let's avoid the obvious.
That's the thing, because you get the choice now. Do you want to go for your Napoli on your left or your Napoli in the middle? Because if you don't pick one, we'll pick the other, so it's going to be easy for us.
Yeah, it's okay.
Spoiler alert for the audience, by the way, but yeah, that's just how it goes. If you know football, that's how
that
it's
was
gonna
obvious. That was always obvious.
Yeah, no. I guess it doesn't really. Oof.
You're gonna say it doesn't matter, but it definitely matters.
Hey, I don't know why. Part of me feels like it does matter. I'm trying to think. No, I mean both are really talented, but I mean in terms of like overall impact this season, it's gotta be Kvararskhelia. It's gotta be Kvararskhelia. Overall, like impact, like he played a tremendous role in the title winning campaign. He got so many assists and goals. Such a well-rounded player. Also, the Champions League, he tore it apart. Not that Leao didn't have a good season, but I feel like his impact wasn't he wasn't as impactful, and had a little bit more dry spells compared to Kvararskhelia. But I mean that's pretty much for the whole Milan team. At a certain point of the season, they were inconsistent, like Inter. So I think Kvararskhelia was the better one this season.
Question for everyone on the podcast: is Kvararskhelia the best signing we've seen in world football this season because of the impact he's brought in, because of the surprise that he brought in with his amazing skill and his amazing talent? So we'll start with Julian. Julian, what do you think? Best signing of the season in world football? Kvararskhelia.
In world, but I think so, because nobody would have expected Kvararskhelia to blow up so quickly and to become one of the biggest stars in world football
in one season,
in such a short amount of time. Like everybody thought, like when Napoli signed Kvararskhelia, like I think a lot of people would have assumed that his growth would have been more gradual, like Leao, and perhaps he would reach that. But I mean, nobody would have expected him. Like he literally just showed that Champions League jitters like isn't a thing, and he just really set a light at the under the lights of the Champions League. And
that game against Liverpool will be unforgettable.
He terrified them.
That literally showed that he's fearless and he has full of confidence, and he's only 21 years old too, so he's very young. And so
and we have similar facial hair, so he does it for all the people who has that scruffy facial hair across the world. So I do love Kvararskhelia for that. Lucas, how about you? Best signing of the season, Kvararskhelia in world football. What do you think?
You see, it's hard to go against it for many reasons, you know. You also look at the price that they got him for. It was very, very cheap. You know, what was it, like 10 million, 12 million-ish around there? And the player that he just became automatically, you know, he had a preseason and then straight away it looked like there's no adaptation. It looks like he's been there for a long time, you know. He didn't feel the pressure of having to fill the boots of a club legend and Lorenzo Insigne, you know, a player that meant so much to Napolitani because he was one of them. He was a kid born in Napoli, captaining the team that became one of the best players for him. So it was hard shoes to fill, and he came in there like it was nothing. He automatically showed what he could bring, his skill set, his style of play, and that really elevated Napoli, you know. At a time when Osimhen was injured, it didn't look like he was injured. It didn't look like it phased them. You know, Kvicha he was able to put balls into any striker that was there. He's able to work with anybody, you know. And I think if it was the other way around with Osimhen not having Kvicha, it'd be different because Napoli don't have any other left winger or winger in general that are as direct and as creative as Kvisha Kvaratskhelia. You know, I'm sorry, but Elmas isn't going to do the trick at left wing. You know, he's a good temporary fix for one game, but when it's like a whole month and a half of your season missing your star player, he can't do that. He can't do that job.
Yeah, fair enough as well. Especially with on the other side, you got Politano and you've got Lozano as well, who've been inconsistent over the couple of years that they've been there as well. So it's always reliant upon rather Osimhen, or I think Zielinski's had a really good season, but not in terms of goals and assists like Kvararskhelia has had as well. So yeah, that's 2 out of 2. Travis, what are you going to say? Best signing, or do you think someone like Erling Haaland's been more of a most valuable signing for Manchester City, especially with the trophies that they've won? What do you think from a Premier League point of view?
I think if you're looking at best signing in terms of over deliverance on expectation, obviously it's Kvararskhelia. But I think if you're talking about the true number one best signing of this summer just gone, has to be Haaland. The goals that he's scored and the way that he's elevated Man City, especially the second half of the season. I think, even comparatively speaking, I mean, obviously Kvararskelia's transfer fee was, like Lucas said, 10, 11, 12 million, something like that. That is a bargain, but comparatively speaking, so was Haaland. It was obviously there'll be a lot more money in agents' fees and things, but the release clause was something like 50 odd million, which for a player who's going to guarantee you 40 to 50, potentially 50 plus goals in a season, teams would happily pay 200, 250 million for him. So even, from a value for money aspect, I think Haaland competes.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, and good little conversation there as well. But yeah, you've obviously beaten us to Kvararskhelia. Travis, is it your go or my go? It's my go, isn't it? Yeah, so easy choice, Rafael Leao, first AC Milan pick, I think, for us as well. I've really enjoyed watching him play. Obviously, the way he destroyed Napoli in that Serie A game and in the Champions League was really, really fun to watch. And I think we appreciate wingers like that, especially in Italy when you've got a slower pace of game, when you've got a lot more defensive-minded players and you slow the game down a lot. When you've got someone like Kvicha or Leao running at defenders directly, it really excites a lot of fans. And that's why I think it worked really well in the Champions League this season as well, because you took a lot of other clubs from other countries by surprise. Inter Milan taking Barcelona by surprise. You had AC Milan taking Spurs by surprise. Travis, I remember you thinking it would have been an easier game for Spurs, but it wasn't, unfortunately, for you guys, but was for AC Milan and for Lucas. And especially with Napoli, there were talks of Napoli potentially winning the Champions League as well because of how well they did, but they faltered against AC Milan back in that quarterfinals at home as well. But yeah, Rafael Leao, we've spoken about him glowingly this season, as we have with Kvicha Kvararskhelia. They're our left wingers. Final choice, strikers. Who has final choice of strikers from your team, Lucas? Is it you or is it Julian?
It's Lucas, I believe.
Lucas, who are you going for your number 9? I remember 2 players per club, so you can't go for a number 9 of a club you've used twice already.
Nah.
We've used Inter Milan, so we can't use Edin Dzeko. So Travis, forget about Edin Dzeko.
Wait. Oh yeah, we have Dimarco and Brozovic. Yeah.
Oh yes, that takes both of the top goal scorers off the year.
We took two Inter players. I forgot about that.
Travis, we snookered them. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we've smashed this one, mate.
We snookered them.
Oh my God!
Who have you got? You got Rasmus Højlund. You've got Immobile. You got Luka Jovic, Giroud, Vlahovic. It's not a bad alternative list, but obviously from where we've got to kind of where you are now, it's kind of best of the rest, isn't it, guys?
Isn't it? There's someone that I was sort of reading a little bit about earlier. Boulaye Dia, is that his name? Is that how it's sort of pronounced?
Yeah.
Lucas does like him. Lucas does like him.
Ridiculously impressive statistics for a player playing in a team that was in the lower quarter of the table.
Yeah,
16 goals, 6
Julian, what do you
think
think here?
place team?
I don't know. It was my fault. I didn't realize we took 2 Inter players already. So I mean, I should have went Leao. But I don't know. Actually, it's tough.
This is hard because none of the strikers.
Yeah, to be honest, all the strikers
on a great level.
They underperformed. A lot of strikers underperformed.
Yeah.
Immobile is underperformed.
Who's overperformed. Yeah, Vlahovic who's underperformed.
Okay, no, there's one I have in mind. There's one I have in mind. If we have no choice, I have one. Yeah.
Yeah, who is it?
Performed to expectation of a 36-year-old. Julian, who are you thinking here?
Surely Giroud's overperformed for a 36-year-old.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said he's performed at expectation. Sorry.
Yeah,
I have somebody in mind.
Yeah, Julian, say it's a joint choice for the last one.
I guess I'd go with Ciro. I go with Ciro Immobile, I guess.
I've liked him this season. Again, not as prime Immobile, like we've seen a few years ago, especially at the Euros, that Euro season for Lazio when they're in the Champions League. But still a fantastic player, I would say. Lucas,
Yeah.
would you pick him for your team? Would you go for him to complete your team?
No, if I had to choose, I
Oh.
choose Dia. No, yeah, Buyaila Dia from Salernitana. Immobile has been fucking crap, in my opinion. I watch him and I want to tear my eyes out. Oh my God,
Yeah,
he
no,
makes
yeah, man,
Sarri ball
Dia
go
is
from
good.
something nice and
Zola
magical to
too.
something
Man.
slow and horrid and just ugh.
Not the one, not prime Immobile this season, right?
Yeah, he he slows everything down in this Lazio team. He was good in the first months of the season in September, August, when Lazio were going unbeaten before his big injury. But I talked in the podcast with Julian earlier in the year
Yeah.
about the February, January period, how Lazio look a much better team with the false nine, with Felipe Anderson up top.
Mm.
They look much smoother. They look like they're creating with much more ease, and they don't look like they have the pressure to play in Immobile. And also I've noticed that Immobile has been forcing more shots, trying to do more than he can in a way. And in my opinion, he's not even been close to the best player for Lazio.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So you're going to go for Dia. So tell us a bit more about Dia, because obviously we don't really watch a lot of the lower leagues and the lower teams in Serie A. What has he brought to the Serie A that we haven't really seen from a couple of the other strikers this season? What's Dia brought to us in Serie A, Lucas?
He's really brought just speed, explosiveness, directness, and great finishing. Like he's been able to finish so many chances on such a, I guess you can say, average to poor team. He's not playing on a Fiorentina or an Udinese, like a mid-table team like that creates and has great creators, great thinkers, great everything there. He's playing on a team that has average players, that has like relegation fighting profile kind of players.
It
I
reminds me of
think it was a
Harry
weird
Kane
move.
at Tottenham.
It's a drive-by.
I think it was weird that he went from Villarreal, who made semifinals in UCL, to Salernitana.
Mm.
And he's shown that with little to no help in this attack, that he can score goals, he can run the show. And he's recently been getting linked to Fiorentina a lot, which I think would be a great option for them because they don't have a striker that can really bang the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, go behind the defensive line as well. Like we saw
Yeah,
tonight with Jovic not really going past the defenders, always trying to stay on their shoulder, having ball to feet. Dia getting past the defensive line, breaking the offside trap would work really well for them from what I saw tonight as well. But yeah,
Jovic
Dia,
is too much of the poacher type. He's waiting in the box, he's waiting for that service. But Fiorentina are more of a team that want to possess the ball and move the ball around instead of just crossing it to a guy in the box.
yeah,
And with Cabral, he was more mobile. He moves into the channels a little more. He tries to open himself up. They looked a little more solider with Cabral on, but his problem is that he also goes on long runs where he's not scoring goals. It's not what they expected as the Vlahovic replacement after what they saw in Basel. In Switzerland, Cabral was a king. Scoring goals every week, and he came to Fiorentina and he's not really showing that goal scoring instinct. It doesn't matter what league you're playing in. If you're a striker and you know how to finish, you know how to finish.
absolutely.
And it just seems like he doesn't.
Yeah, it reminds me of Weghorst. Couldn't really finish in Turkey, couldn't really finish in England, so he just never was really good at finishing. But you could do it at the World Cup. 2 goals against Argentina for no reason whatsoever. Can't score a Premier League goal for Manchester United.
No,
Has he
So,
still
yeah.
not got one?
Well, he didn't get any. He only got 1 goal against like Real Betis, and that was it.
Really? None in the league?
It was Real Betis. We won like 4-1, I think, and he scored the 4th goal and celebrated like he won the World Cup. And like, no, go away. That was it. Sorry, that's my mini Man United rant over. But great choice with Dia as well. One to watch definitely for the future in Serie A going forward. Travis, just finish it off for us. I hope you got who I've got in mind for this last pick.
Yeah, Olivier Giroud. No, I'm kidding. Obviously,
No way.
I've already written it down before.
No, I was ready to slap. I was ready to slap the camera out. I was like, no, I'm done.
Yeah, no. What can you say? Top goal scorer, absolute revelation, world class striker, and I think we saved the other Napoli pick for him, didn't we? I think we've
Yeah.
made the most of our Napoli picks. I
Yeah.
think if we were missing Kvara, then I think that Osimhen and Kim Min-jae are the next two best decisions, I think.
26 goals in the league this season, 4 assists, almost doubling what he kind of got over the last 2 years as well. He got more in this season for 26 than he got in the last 2 seasons combined, Victor Osimhen, which shows that his £80 million original purchase by Gennaro Gattuso a couple of years ago was worth it. And it goes to show how well he can do with persistence as a number 9 striker. And when you got the team built around him, from what I've seen from my point of view, it looks like he's just getting on with Napoli from a house on fire as well. And if I remember correctly, Lucas, you were in Napoli, right, during their title-winning celebrations. Talk to us a bit about that as well before we end the podcast. How was your time in Napoli, kind of seeing the local surroundings as well, especially when they were around lifting the Scudetto? How was it being around that atmosphere?
It was honestly amazing. It's like it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. You know, for these people, they've waited 30 years to see their team win the title. You know, the first thing that you see when walking to the city is blue and white rafters all around. Like Julian went to the Amalfi and he went to Sorrento, and even in Sorrento, there was blue and white rafters all around the roofs, the houses. On the house balconies, you have Maradona banners, you have Napoli banners, you have flags, you know. And when I
Yeah,
entered,
the street art as well, seeing that mural of Kvararskhelia and Maradona together as well. That looked iconic as well. Was that in Naples or was that on the Amalfi Coast? From what I saw.
I think that was Naples. I think
Naples, yeah.
the Diego Maradona mural, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That
looked iconic as well. Passing of the guard really from one to another, from Maradona to Victor. But no, carry on.
It was amazing because I entered Napoli the day before the Lazio Inter game and the Napoli Salernitana game, which was the vital game for Napoli to win Serie A. You know, Napoli could win Serie A the next day and be crowned champions. And so that night when I entered the city, it's like 11 o'clock and the streets are crowded, filled with people, filled with horns, sirens, fireworks, Napoli jerseys, Maradona t-shirts, and it's amazing because you're seeing 10-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, kids that have never even seen Maradona, so passionate about the guy, so passionate about Maradona, and it's brought down from the older generations and continue on. And just in general, the passion for football was amazing.
No, it's amazing to see, and we can only see it from pictures and videos. But for you to be there must have been an amazing experience and one unforgettable experience to tell your family and your friends for years to come as well. But before we wrap up and move on to our European trips and the end of our podcast, I'm going to need you to remind us of the team that you picked for your Serie A team of the season draft. So Travis, I know you've got ours written down, and Julian and Lucas, you're gonna have to remind yours off the top of your head. But Travis, read out our team for us, please, from back to front.
Okay, so we've got Onana in goal, Zeki Celik right back, Kim Min-jae and Bastoni centre backs, Destiny Udogie left back.
Good choice.
Sofian Amrabat in defensive midfield. We've got Milinkovic Savic and Ademola Lookman ahead of him. Domenico Berardi on the right, Rafael Leao on the left, and Osimhen through the middle. So we've used 9 different teams. We've picked 2 from Inter, 2 from Napoli, and then we've picked 1 from Roma, Udinese, Fiorentina, Lazio, Atalanta, Sassuolo, and Milan.
We could have swapped out Udogie for Theo Hernandez, but Udogie's a great choice and it shows the variety in our work as well. Julian, Lucas, remind us of your team back to front, if you can. Who is your goalkeeper, your back 4, midfield 3, and attacking 3?
Yeah, so we have goalkeeper was Provedel, left back was Di Marco, right back was Di Lorenzo. Then for our 2 center backs, it was Bremer and Chris Smalling. Our 2 holding midfielders were Brozovic and
Tonali.
And Tonali,
Yeah.
yes, Sandro Tonali. In front, as an attacking midfielder, we had Paulo Dybala as the second striker,
Mm.
and then our front three starting from the right was Nicolas Gonzalez, Dia, and Kvararskhelia as the left winger.
Yeah. Gonzalez, I know, plays on different wings, but I'm obviously not going to go, oh, he just plays predominantly on the right wing or the left wing. So I'll happily give you that, which is perfectly fine. And I'm really glad you didn't pick Angel Di Maria. So it shows that you will be invited for another podcast later this summer, hopefully.
Great.
Which is really, really good. But before we wrap up the podcast, Julian, just share your thoughts on your trip to Italy recently as well, because obviously you went at a similar time, but did you get to go and watch any game? Anything in particular? What did you really enjoy about your trip to Italy this summer?
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I managed to see two games, Inter Roma at the Stadio Olimpico and the Inter Sassuolo at the San Siro, so two iconic stadiums. It was during a period where it was vital within the Serie A, especially Roma Inter at the time at the Stadio Olimpico. It was pretty much like towards the end of the race for the top four, so Inter really needed to win that one, which they did 2-0. The Romanistas were fantastic. It was such an exhilarating atmosphere hearing them sing their chants.
Did you sit with them or did you sit with the Inter fans when you went?
I sat with a bunch of Roma fans, to be honest.
Were you wearing your Inter shirt? Was your
No,
Zenesi shirt on?
I kept my Inter shirt. I kept my Inter shirt in my luggage that day. But I was not too far from the super fans, the Curva Sur, as I like to be called. It was an overall fantastic experience. So pretty close to the touchline, so got to see Mourinho and Inzaghi from close. There was a 2-0 Inter, great result. And then the Inter Sassuolo one was also an exciting game. It was right before the the second leg of the Milan Inter game. So already the city of Milan was quite filled with positivity, all smiles right before the game after having beaten the Rossoneri 2-0 the first leg. And it was just a matter of getting the job done against Sassuolo to pretty much confirm the spot of the top four and go full and focus entirely on the Champions League. And which they did. They won 4-2. A little bit of a scare. They were up 3-0, and then Sassuolo almost pulled the comeback. But then Lukaku sealed the deal with the brace. It was his birthday. It was his 30th birthday actually. He scored a brace on his birthday. So that was quite a special moment. And yeah, it was just a spectacular night at the San Siro. Really nice atmosphere.
Nah, great to hear that as well. I'm glad you both had great times in Italy this season as well. Mine was like back in September. So Travis, next season you're gonna have to join us and actually go on a trip to Italia and see some Serie A football, which should be good fun as well.
Yeah, am I right in thinking that next season's going to be the last season at the San Siro? Is that right? Before it gets demolished?
Or
From what I'm thinking, yes, but I'm not entirely sure if it's confirmed or not. I believe due to it seems like it's on the verge of collapsing, from what I'm understanding. So I'm not entirely sure whether it's gonna be the last season, but I do know that both clubs are in the process of planning out their next stadiums. Yeah.
I'm gonna need a trip there next season for sure then, because that's one on the bucket list, the San Siro, definitely.
Literally, all of our childhood stadiums are now being remodernized. The Bernabeu, as we saw in Madrid, you're seeing the new camp going to get a roof soon as well. The San Siro maybe being into two different stadiums now as well. It's insane to really see with the way modern football's going, but. No, thank you very much for sharing your stories, Julian and Lucas as well. It's been great to hear that. And it's great to have you both on the podcast as well. Hopefully get a couple more of these joint podcasts over the summer going forward. I'm looking forward to hearing more of your stories, especially with the transfer rumors coming up in Serie A and in the Premier League respectively as well. Before we wrap up the podcast, Julian and Lucas, to share with your podcast and your platform and with the listeners before we wrap up the podcast. So Lucas, go first, and then Julian, share what you're up to this summer as well.
Yeah, follow the Instagram, Calcio Talk. I'm sure Hamza will post it for the podcast. He'll post everything. But the account is basically giving you news. I'm starting more with opinions. I'm giving more of my thoughts on the league and players around and what's happening around the league. And during the transfer market, I'll give you more thoughts on player sales, manager switches, board switches, just everything in between. And I'll also give predictions on what's going to happen in the league and stuff like that. And then also me and Julian plan to pick up the podcast for the summer. We have big things planned for that. We want to get back into the groove of that. We plan on reviewing the Mercato. We give our season predictions probably, and everything around Serie, everything that hypes you up for going into the next season.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And obviously, Julian, just talks to us a bit more about your rides and about how that work's going on as well, and your plans for the summer before the next season.
So you can find me on Instagram at Calcio Julian, and on the Twitter as well. Basically, I'm a football writer / journalist. I write pieces for Get Italian Football News. This is one of the bigger Serie news outlets on the One Football network, and also I write some exclusives and news articles for the Cult of Calcio as well. So yeah, just publish exclusive interviews with some higher up journalists within the Serie A, and try to cover as much transfer news as possible. And this summer it's just going to be covering the Mercato, the summer transfer window, the managerial merry-go-round. So there's going to be a lot going on it's going to be interesting to see what occurs within the world of football. So there's going to be a lot to cover. And as Lucas said, we started the podcast around January, so we got a little bit of a feel of what it is to host the podcast. But I think this summer and going into the end of next season, we plan on going on a good run for sure.
Looking forward to it. Do you reckon Mourinho is going to stay at Roma for one more season, or do you reckon he could move to?
So. From what I'm hearing, from what I'm seeing, I think he's happy. It's not that he doesn't love Roma, the city, Roma, and the fans. He loves the team. It's just it was just a little bit of disagreement with the board, but I think they will get that settled, and he will end up staying ultimately staying at Roma.
Excellent. Who needs Fabrizio Romano when you got Calcio with Julian? I don't know who's going for Fabrizio these days as well. But no, everyone, thank you very much for listening to our podcast today. Julian, Lucas, thank you very much for joining us as guests today. And I'm looking forward to getting back and some feedback from people who's looked at our teams. Obviously, text over your teams on Instagram, and then we can make it into an edit, which would be good fun as well. Everyone, thank you very much for listening. Travis, as always, it's a pleasure, my friend. I'll see you next time. Take care, and I'll see you later. Bye.